The whole city's lit up like a Christmas tree with emergency alerts. All thanks to these so-called accidents. And here's the kicker. The evening news just confirmed monsters are officially crashing the party over in Sedaman. But hey, no sweat. They're rolling out the pros and their master rank pals. Before the ride gets completely totaled, a call for Team Zanaku crackles over the radio. Meanwhile, you've got these massive, freaking pterodactyl wannabes just wrecking what's left of the already trashed streets. A lone warrior faces off against claws, the size of cars and bodies, towering several meters tall, while the beasts let out this disgusting, deep growl, followed by a glass-shattering screech that just seems to echo for an eternity. Just as he's steeling himself for the throwdown, our hero's complaining that his eardrums are about to explode. And right on cue, a massive blast of purple lightning just erupts. The raw power alone is enough to send the creatures into a complete panic. They're screeching their heads off as the warrior summons this giant energy spear in the sky, aiming to turn one of the beasties into a kebab. But before he can even fire off his super cool finishing move, a far-off rumble and a flash of blinding white light totally steals his thunder. The shockwave that follows just pops the monsters' heads clean off. All that's left are their twitching, feathery corpses. Our guy is just left standing there, thinking, what the hell was that? As the monster bodies rain down and slam into the pavement. The impact sends a shockwave down the street, while he and his subordinate just stare. She's totally floored, thinking he's the one who pulled it off. But he's quick to shut that idea down, flat out telling her it wasn't his doing. He explains that he doesn't do massive area of effect attacks. That's more of a Queen's Blade specialty. They both look around, completely creeped out, since they were supposed to be the only team on site. He asks his partner if any other awakened squads are working this zone besides them, but she confirms they're the only ones on the roster. He gets this deep in thought look, realizing he's never even heard of a squad in the whole country that packs that kind of ridiculous heat. Then, out of nowhere, the warrior spots a magic stone and wonders what absolute clown would just leave perfectly good loot lying on the ground. The captain goes quiet, completely unable to stop replaying the insane scene in his mind. He's fixated on the raw power and pinpoint accuracy of those strikes. Snapping out of it for a second, he tells the young woman to fire up the matrix and call in the cleanup crew for the carcasses. And that's when his eyes land on something weird. In the middle of all this rubble and busted-up buildings, there's one restaurant that's completely untouched. As he takes in the scene, he figures if the big shot who caused all this chaos had been off by even a single inch, that restaurant owner would be filing for bankruptcy right now. He adjusts the spear on his back, his mind still racing. He's all like, yo, come, grab a drink, and then bam, we're suddenly looking at something completely different. A pair of birds are minding their own business, pecking at a car hood, when some guy casually wanders into frame. He scares them off before ducking down a flight of alley stairs, but not before pausing for a split second. He scans the street, gives a little cough into his sleeve, and slips into what seems to be a derelict restaurant. Dude walks in like he pays the rent, flicks on the stove, and preps for some serious cooking. After a quick raid of the pantry, would you look at that? A giant hunk of meat. He slaps it down on the counter right next to a few cloves of garlic and a sprig of rosemary. But then he eyes his prize again, looking just a tad unconvinced. He starts thinking he might have gotten a bit greedy with this Belto meat, since the cleanup crew likely swiped all the other monster loot by now. So maybe turning it into jerky is the smarter play, especially with a prime cut like the one he managed to snag. Suddenly, his 5-star culinary dreams are interrupted by a knock at the door and someone asking for a Kang Chiel. He opens up, confirms he's the guy, and finds himself staring down a representative from the Awakened Association. The suit starts explaining that a whole pack of Beltos just rampaged through the neighborhood, adding, "My God, you must have been terrified." He goes on about just making his rounds, checking on local homes and businesses for any collateral damage. Then, looking a bit embarrassed, the official mentions that since nobody really lives in this dump anymore, there were thankfully no major losses. But while he's droning on, this incredible, mouth-watering aroma drifts right up his nose. He takes a big, appreciative whiff and blurts out, "Whoa, whatever you're cooking in there smells amazing." Without missing a beat, our guy just deadpans. Well, it is a restaurant. The rep, totally buying it, asks if he can grab some breakfast, explaining he's been working since dawn and is absolutely famished. Kang doesn't waste his breath, saying no. The second the association guy sets foot inside, his jaw just about unhinges. The interior is immaculate, completely spotless, and so well kept it looks like a cozy little spot from an old K-drama, from the days before the portals appeared. As he finds a place to sit, he naturally asks to see a menu, but our chef coolly explains he just cooks with whatever he has fresh for the day, which piques the official's interest. The guy asks if there's a chef's special or something, and Kang just gives him a simple nod. Yep. Tying on his apron, he announces with a completely straight face, "Today's special is Belto steak." The dude's jaw practically unhinged, his eyes popping out of his skull as he sputters about seeing a solid 10 of those massive bird freaks. And get this, their dead bodies apparently just rained down, splatting all over the town square. Kang, with a straight face, just shrugs it off, saying the little skypocalypse was great for business, netting him a boatload of fresh ingredients, and even though the things were a pain, they're ridiculously delicious. The rep, looking completely baffled, suddenly gets this greedy gleam in his eyes, totally pumped to get a taste. But then, reality hits, and his face drops as he starts sweating bullets, wondering if his wallet can handle a meal of this legendary tier. Meanwhile, Kang, cool as a cucumber, slices off a few thick cuts from the prime piece and hits it with a simple, yet masterful, dash of salt and pepper. And cue the dramatic flashback. 30 years back, our boy woke up in a completely different world. I'm talking dragons soaring overhead and monsters skittering all over the place. He had to scrap for his life, fighting literally anything that gave him a weird look. Before long, he was power leveling like a madman, even dropping dragons like they were common mobs. Eventually, he got to the final boss, the Demon King. And yeah, you know the drill, he one-shot the guy with his ridiculously overpowered sword. Boom. Just like that, he became the legendary hero. After all that hardcore grinding, he finally unlocked the portal back to Earth. Except, plot twist, the portals had already opened up on Earth too, and the world he remembered was totally gone. Back in the present, while he's seasoning the steak, his mind wanders to all the top-secret intel he gathered. He's basically a living strategy guide with all the cheat codes for these monsters. He expertly flips the steak onto a searing hot pan, basting it with a decadent sauce, and he can't help but wonder if he really needs to jump back into the whole hero gig. As he plates the meal with the focus of a surgeon, he figures the people on Earth are handling things just fine. You know, in their own adorable, amateur way. Applying the final perfect drizzle of sauce over the dish, Kang quietly accepts his new reality. The master chef then looks at his masterpiece with a smug, satisfied smirk, and there it is. Belto steak, plated like a work of art with a side of perfectly crisp asparagus and a fresh garden salad. The customer's eyes are literally sparkling. He's completely captivated by the masterpiece sitting in front of him, a dish that looks way more epic than anything he could have dreamed of. Cautiously, he brings a piece to his mouth, and K-boom, a flavor bomb detonates on his tongue like nothing he has ever tasted before. The dude is losing his mind over how unbelievably juicy it is, completely floored by the hilarious irony of the situation. The same monsters that made his life a living nightmare were now the source of the best meal he's ever had. As he savors every single bite, he figures it's probably best to just not question it. He just shuts his mouth and absolutely destroys the steak, one heavenly bite at a time, not even caring what kind of damage this is about to do to his bank account. The moment he's finished, he's already begging Kang for another plate, and our main man just casually replies, "Coming right up," even though this dude literally wrestled the Beltos into submission himself. A bit later, the rep, after inhaling his second course like a vacuum cleaner, finally calls for the check. But then, plot twist, Kang, cool as a cucumber, drops the bomb that the first hit is free for all newbies. Getting all flustered, the guy thanks him a million times, swearing the food just power-washed the exhaustion right out of his soul. And that's precisely why he's begging to throw money at him and become a regular. Our boy Kang is internally cackling at this guy's desperation. He finally caves, telling him it's just a measly 10 silvers. Just as he's about to bounce, the association rep has a sudden oh crap moment. He gives Kang a bro-to-bro warning to watch his back and scram if any more monsters decide to crash the party. Whipping out his business card and sliding it over, he warns that even with all the new hotspots popping up, this district is still officially a you-might-get-eaten zone. Kang gives the card a once-over as the dude finally makes his exit. The rep shuffles away, mumbling to himself about the hard-knock life of a regular, non-powered Joe. Kang strolls back to the kitchen, thinking the guy wasn't half bad, before immediately pivoting back to the real priority, his own epic feast. He sinks his teeth into a massive chunk of steak, chews thoughtfully for a sec, and confirms, yep, this stuff is straight-up divine. Meanwhile, outside, night has officially dropped, complete with a super dramatic owl hoot for atmosphere. Giving a good stretch, Kang muses out loud that another day is in the books, his gaze falling on the sweet, sweet Beltos eggs he snagged earlier. He's just brainstorming the best way to whip 'em up. When out of nowhere, kaboom! Some rando warrior kicks the door right off its hinges, looking absolutely livid to have finally tracked Kang down. Our boy just gives him a blank stare, totally unfazed by the WWE-style entrance. The warrior, on the other hand, is practically steaming. The gatecrasher bellows that he's here to take back what's his by right. And roll the flashback. We're zipping back a few hours to the crazy busy Sedaman market. Kang was just pondering what a total pain it is to source certain ingredients now that monster meat is the hottest thing on the menu. Eventually, some folks tried artificial farming, but let's be real, that lab-grown stuff could never match the OG flavor. That S-tier taste of authentic monster meat kept demand skyrocketing, and because of that, the local market just blew up, selling literally every monster bit and bob you could ever think of. And it was at one of these sketchy stalls that Kang's peepers locked onto the Beltos eggs, but before he slapped down any cash, he gave them a full workup with his totally broken detection eyes skill. This handy little hack comes from a dragon artifact that basically gives him X-ray vision, letting him perfectly sort the eggs by their quality grade. Oh, and this just happens to be one of the many trinkets he liberated from the Demon King. And yeah, he still uses it constantly. I mean, why wouldn't you? When it lets you see the true nature of anything, and instantly calls out anyone trying to pull a fast one on you. After a quick once-over, he decides to yoink 3 eggs from the market stall, but one of them is a total enigma, completely ghosting his artifact. So, in true protagonist fashion, he tells the vendor to bag up that little mystery box too. Back at his diner, he gets to cracking an egg, reminiscing about how back on the battlefield, dinner time was basically a fairy tale. Just managing to chow down on something that wasn't actively trying to eat you was pretty much a 5-star event. But hey, those gnarly, life-or-death days are all in the rearview mirror now. He proceeds to whip up a legendary-level sandwich and some scrambled eggs using one of the Belto eggs. It's insane how food and smells can just teleport your brain straight into the past. And every time he bites into something this amazing or slams down some Cole's milk, it's like his old war buddies are right there shooting the breeze with him. Taking a massive bite, Kang gets absolutely blasted by a flavor explosion, every texture, every single note, hitting just right. This isn't just tasty, it's a one-way ticket on the Nostalgia Express, bringing back a flood of old memories. Gazing out the window like some old-timer, he wonders if he's going soft for actually missing those goons. Muttering to himself like a full-blown lunatic, he glares at the mystery egg, still annoyed that his high-tech scanner couldn't get a single ping off it. From what he recalls, a dragon's artifact is pretty much their soul-linked gear, crafted the very instant they pop out of the shell. It holds their entire power set and can scan other life forms, but it's completely useless on fellow dragons. Which means, peeping the strange color and scaly pattern, a massive light bulb goes off in Kang's head. Wait, did I just buy a frickin' dragon egg? And right as he's pondering the age-old question of fried versus scrambled, some pint-sized rage machine bursts in and completely kills the mood. Initially, Kang's just giving him the, you lost, little guy? Look. But the kid just keeps screeching about being here to reclaim his item. Then his eyes lock onto the blue egg in Kang's hands, and he points with all the drama of a soap opera finale. Kang just rolls his eyes and activates his appraisal skill one more time. The scan comes up blank on the kid, so Kang just deadpans. Let me guess, you're a dragon, aren't you? And like clockwork, the little trespasser immediately erupts in a dramatic fireball. Kang's only reaction is a mental, nailed it. Knew this world had to have dragons, all while the kid is spewing magic and fury all over the place. The tiny dragon boy shrieks, "How did you figure it out?" But Kang is looking about as impressed as a garden gnome. Kang just casually points out that his restaurant is now on fire, while the kid continues his temper tantrum, demanding an explanation. Completely unbothered, our hero chef explains he's not trying to throw down, and offhandedly mentions his handy-dandy little detection artifact. For whatever reason, hearing this just sends the dragon kid into an even bigger rage spiral. Kang's chill-o-meter is officially over 9,000. Without showing the slightest intention of fighting, he tells the dragon he can have his egg back, but trolls him by suggesting he should probably wipe off his fingerprints first, which predictably causes the kid to have a complete and total system failure. The dragon kid's eyes just about pop out of his head when he lays eyes on a kitchen knife, realizing it's forged from blue dragon scales, basically a long-lost cousin. He takes a deep sniff of the countertop and, with pure terror in his voice, asks if it's made from the bones of his ancestors. The horrifying realization that his entire family tree was turned into a premium kitchenware collection sends the dragon boy into an absolute rage. He unleashes every single drop of his power, tapping into all the draconic energy he can muster. The kid starts twisting and warping into a truly monstrous, terrifying beast. But Kang, he looks at the transformation with the same level of excitement as watching a toaster make toast. The dragon boy unleashes a colossal energy beam at the chef, who just casually flexes a bit of his own magic in return. Kang simply materializes a cooking pot, holding it up in the kid's face like it's the mightiest shield in the land. He treats the world-ending energy blast like a casual game of tennis, smacking it right back at the dragon with a perfect backhand. The poor guy is completely shell-shocked by this absurd Uno reverse card moment. He's even more floored when, in less than a blink, Kang is closing in on him like a heat-seeking missile. With all his strength, Kang formally introduces the pot to the boy's face with a glorious times bonk asterisk. Through the loud ringing in his ears, the dragon kid realizes the chef's voice is chillingly familiar. A traumatic flashback hits him like a runaway truck, as he remembers those exact same threatening words being hurled at the Demon King by a man with a sword. Kang had been demanding the artifact, threatening to absolutely demolish the king and just take it if he didn't hand it over. He was staring down a gigantic red dragon without a single ounce of fear in his body. The beast wanted to vaporize him, even as a small child pleaded for it to stop, and then, everything clicked into place. He remembers that this very chef was the dude who single-handedly created his childhood trauma that day. They'd crossed paths briefly, and Kang had been genuinely surprised to find a little dragon kid just hanging around. And now, standing right in front of him, was that same dragon, the son of the monster he'd clapped all those years ago. The boy slowly drifts back to consciousness after being knocked out cold by a piece of kitchen equipment. Kang informs him that as soon as he's done cleaning up his own mess, he can pack his bags and get the heck out. In the most passive-aggressive tone ever, he adds that he's not exactly a fan of dragons, and if the kid has a problem with that, well, they might have to have another little physical discussion. Left with absolutely zero good choices, the boy picks up the bucket and mop. While scrubbing the floor, he whines to Kang that he's from the Span continent and got accidentally yeeted into this world through a dimensional portal. Muttering under his breath, Kang connects the dots. The Span continent is tied to this world, which explains why all the monsters felt so familiar. Kang then casually drops a bombshell on the dragon boy, admitting that back in his old world, people knew him as Moralas, but he figured he'd rebrand himself for a fresh start in this new life. And right at that moment, he absolutely roasts the kid for his half-hearted scrubbing job. The boy just grits his teeth, knowing his gut feeling was dead on. A few moments later, staring at his own reflection in the gleaming floor, Kang finally tells the kid to get lost, letting him take off with the blue egg. But the young dragon gets right up in Kang's face, demanding why he never returned his father's artifact. Kang's eyes pop open. He finally places this pipsqueak as the same one who saw him throw down with Ekman Rex, the son of that legendary monster dragon. He casually beckons for the dragon boy to step a little closer, but the kid flinches hard, still feeling the phantom pains from the beatdown he caught earlier. So, Kang switches tactics, asking him his age. The dragon puffs up his chest and declares he's 50, even though he looks like he just got his learner's permit. The cook just scoffs, saying he's already hit 60, which makes the dragon's brain short-circuit, wondering if he's dealing with an elf. With a massive, trollish grin, Kang lobs the question right back at him, asking if the dragon honestly thinks he's that much of a looker. Then, pivoting on a dime, he mentions how back in the day, putting bratty dragons in their place was basically his Tuesday morning routine. The kid, as expected, completely loses his cool again. Kang is clearly enjoying the meltdown. Durigi sputters, asking if Kang is about to permanently log him off. But the cook just waves it off dismissively, claiming all those so-called legendary items were nothing more than cheap party favors. Kang offers a seriously half-baked apology for the artifact, explaining it sort of disintegrated when he was duking it out with the Demon King. Then, with zero shame, he invites the fuming dragon to pull up a seat and have a drink with him. The dragon boy is just floored by the sheer nerve, thinking, how dare this measly mortal invite a noble dragon for a pint? But, fast forward a little while, and he's completely face down on the table, totally wasted. Slurring his words, he mumbles that Kang has to be the only human to ever get a dragon completely plastered. Out of sheer curiosity, the cook asks if he ever managed to hatch that egg he was so obsessed with, but the young dragon freaks out, screaming that it's his brother. He explains that a portal just randomly ripped open in their city a while back when his parents were away. Kang connects the dots, realizing that's how the kid wound up as a portal drifter. The cook admits their backstories have a similar vibe, saying he felt just as lost when he first got yeeted to Earth. But he decided to stick around because he still had some unfinished business to handle. Even with that, the Dragon Boy isn't buying a word of it. It just seems impossible for a warrior that OP not to have some kind of ulterior motive. In his world, humans are the real monsters, always greedy, constantly at each other's throats for a tiny bit more power. He flat out asks if Kang's secret plan is world domination. The cook just smirks and says the kid isn't wrong about humans, but he honestly couldn't care less about any of that drama. In fact, all that world domination stuff sounds like a colossal bore. But the dragon ain't falling for it, flat out declaring he doesn't trust a single thing a human says. Kang just tells him to take a chill pill and worry about himself and his little sibling, who's still cooped up in that blue egg. The guy is practically glowing, totally ecstatic to have his precious cargo back in his hands. Then, they both hear a Times crack asterisk. Kang's face splits into the most troll-worthy grin imaginable as he sees a baby dragon with huge, shimmering eyes. The Dragon Boy is also just gawking at the unbelievably adorable little creature. He knows in an instant that's his new sibling. The shell just gave up the ghost and poof, a baby dragon was born right there on the table. Our chef asks what he should call the little fella, and the Dragon Boy is like, "I'm still workshopping the name. For now, you can just call her Hatchling." And then, the big question finally drops. He asks if it's a boy or a girl, and Hugh gets all puffed up, confirming she is a female dragon and is not to be treated like some common animal. So naturally, Kang immediately starts petting the creature's fluffy little face. He can't help but notice its itty-bitty little chompers. In the meantime, Hugh goes into full-on doting big brother mode, gushing over and over about how the baby is the most adorable thing in the entire universe. And to be fair, our boy Kang can't even argue with that logic. Finally, he asks the real question. "So, where are you gonna park this little monster?" The two of them just lock eyes in a super awkward silence. Then Kang breaks into a sly, scheming grin like he just cooked up a 5-star plan. Outside, the sun is shining, totally oblivious. He suggests the young dragon and his brand new sister should probably grab some food before they bounce. Elsewhere, it was a morning filled with the howls of desolate winds as demons rode the storm. The gales carried the foul odor of, let's just call it Battle B.O., through the air as strands of white hair whipped about. A weak, shaky voice called out the name, Marrow. The voice struggled to announce, "I'm still kicking." Anyway, back at the restaurant, young Kang had already whipped up 2 mouth-watering burgers made from Belto and Triceratops meat. He offers a piece to the big bro and feeds the baby, but Hugh has to know. "Alright, so what's the damage for this?" Kang's just like, "Normally it's $10, but don't sweat it. This one's on the house." Hugh thinks it over for a hot second, then asks, "Hey, you got a place for us to crash here too?" Kang tells him no, but you can see the gears turning, realizing the dragon kid must be totally lost in this strange new world. That's when the young dragon offers him some magic stones as a thank you gift. Seeing this, Kang can't help but think that a dragon showing gratitude would probably give a whole room of scholars a collective heart attack. Hugh offers him 2 Class 4 magic stones, but then, all of a sudden, our chef just erupts into laughter like a complete lunatic. He notices the baby dragon making a little squeak and asks, "What's wrong, little one? Still peckish?" as he gives the tiny creature another bite. He's probably thinking that shacking up on Earth with a walking cataclysm like that must be a total headache. While he's lost in thought about Mira, the beat-up dude starts boo-hooing about how much he misses his own world. And our boy's over here having a full-blown emo moment, absolutely convinced he's never laying eyes on that little dragon again. After all that soap opera drama, he finally cracks and tells the dragon kid he can bunk with him for a couple of days. But Q, being the upstanding moocher that he is, insists he can't just sponge off Kang without pulling his own weight. Kang just waves it off with a, "Dude, chill, I got this," and starts cooking up a spell with nothing but his bare hands. Of course, the magic goes a bit sideways, and bam! Kasim, the unkillable goblin, just pops into existence out of nowhere. He gives them a casual sup. This goblin who's lived forever is basically just the glorified warehouse manager for Kang's personal pocket dimension. Our MC immediately cuts to the chase, asking how many magic stones they've got socked away in that hammer space. The goblin's just like, "Oh yeah, we're still swimming in 'em," and casually tosses one over to the kid. He starts trying to lay out some explanation, while the goblin just gawks at him like he's watching the premiere of a new hit show. Hugh, in the meantime, is just frozen on the spot, his brain having completely blue-screened from the sheer insanity of it all. Then the little dude says his farewells to the two of them, while Kang just kicks back and watches the scene unfold. Alright, now it's Kang's turn to ask Q for a small favor. Flash forward to the next day, and what a gorgeous morning it is. The little dragon guy is passed out like a log, totally unaware of the raging, apocalypse-level firestorm happening right behind him. Our MC is trying to drill it into Q's head that just randomly spewing fire everywhere isn't exactly a strategy. It's just a fantastic way to incinerate the entire landscape. He tells him to get that blaze under control, because they're doing a take two. And for this very special training session, they've got a comically huge slab of meat already sizzling on a spit. The kid pipes up, asking if the weapon he was using was just some random piece of garbage, a notion our hero immediately smacks down. He lays it out for him. That was the legendary Rekol axe, which makes the guy wonder why in the world he's using a priceless artifact as a glorified rotisserie skewer. Sporting a grin that could launch 1,000 memes, Kuel goes, "You know, you've got a solid point there." Just then, someone calls out to them, bowing like a total pro. The dude explains he's just on a quick 5 from his patrol. Then, we're treated to a glorious shot of a mountain of filthy dishes. While absolutely inhaling his food, the man is in pure culinary bliss and asks Kang if he's hired a new cook or something. Naturally, this comment completely triggers Q. And then, the guy drops a major bombshell. A brand spanking new dungeon has just materialized in the underground tunnel between Sinch and Sedaman. Yup, it seems like another one of those delightful monster-spawning factories is cooking up some trouble. For all you rookies out there, dungeons are basically monster farms that also double as interdimensional portals for all kinds of ugly customers. This bad boy is rated a difficulty level of 5, so for the Sedaman crew, they're sending in Mr. Kim Sang-gu and the whole Zenkaku squad. And as for who's holding down the fort in Sinchen, that'll be Mrs. So, Cheyenne's getting the captain's armband, huh? But just in case they totally biff it, a backup squad is already being prepped. Which totally explains why the town square is an absolute circus of job-hungry wannabes. Some dude on a soapbox is droning on about how they've all got families to feed, acting all high and mighty about his own cushy gig. And with that, his 15 minutes are up, and he pieces out. Apparently, the Avaj roast grell is a certified banger with the crowd. Maybe he should go snag some more Idaho May, and just like that, he's off to the market on a quest for meat. His ears suddenly twitch, picking up on some kind of ruckus kicking off nearby. That guy giving the speech looks kind of familiar. The spear wizard, Kim Sang-gu, the one who's supposedly a pathetic level 2, awakened. Ah, so that's times where the big shot recruitment party is happening. Figures. Nowadays, they call dungeon raid groups attack parties, because when the world basically turns into a real-life RPG, you gotta admit, all the classic gamer lingo just got copy-pasted right over. While tanks and healers get treated like actual gods, the DPS role is always overflowing with a million wannabe heroes. You can see them all, desperately scratching and clawing for that one open slot. Most of them are just trying to put food on the table. Our boy is just soaking it all in, scanning the crowd with an almost radar-like precision. Pujo Wu is a genuinely good dude, no cap. Kay just wishes the guy would stop being a liability and learn to look after himself for a change. Some random guy on the street digs into his pocket, whips out his wallet, and finds nothing but lint and shattered dreams. The dude looks completely wrecked, like his save file just got corrupted. A hand darts out and snags a bag handle as Khan keeps his head on a swivel, scanning the area. The young man seems to be spacing out, his gaze drifting over to the side where he clocks a man asking if a nearby joint is still open for business. Our guy flips the shop sign to open and gets a quick thanks. The man asks, "You serving Raymond?" and gets a simple nod. Ah, Raymond. Still, the undisputed king of cheap eats, a timeless classic that hasn't changed its recipe in 30 years. The man then asks for the price, which rings up to a cool $2. So this mad lad goes and orders a staggering 5 bowls, swearing up and down he can absolutely demolish all of it. This immediately trips Khan's "wait a minute" sensor, prompting him to pop his analysis skill for the lowdown on this customer. A food god. The kid remembers having one on his squad eons ago. Their whole shtick is, the more they chow down, the more powerful they get, and the quality of the ingredients is a massive game changer. You can score some absolutely busted buffs, especially if you're feasting on some top-tier monster grub. The only problem is, the class is a complete meme until you can actually afford to eat strong monsters just to farm EXP. Plus, you're saddled with a permanent debuff that gives you a bottomless pit for a stomach. It supposedly gets more manageable once you hit a certain skill threshold. But by the looks of this guy, he ain't even close. And boom, just like that, the dude's meal is served. And this guy is absolutely floored by how good it is. Seriously, if his alignment wasn't lawful good, K probably would have just ghosted him, even if he was the freaking god of cooking. But since K's skill rating is through the roof, this Idaho meat is guaranteed to pack a serious punch. While he's inhaling it, the guy offers his most sincere thanks. His mind is completely blown by the insane flavor. He practically shouts that he never knew meat could taste this ridiculously good and smell so amazing. Then he just demolishes the rest, flipping the empty bowl over like a total pro. For this dude, that meal was a straight-up, life-altering experience. He turns back to our chef and thanks him again, basically groveling. All right, time to pay up. But as he's fumbling around for some coin, he spots a necktie mixed in with his cash and apologizes for trying to pay with such grimy-looking money. Getting all flustered, he promises to come back and settle the bill later, and with that, he bolts. Khan clocks his clothes, which are just caked in dust and grime. He remembers thinking, man, this poor schmuck must be having a rough go of it. And wouldn't you know it, he runs into that same guy a long time later. The fella's just dragging himself through the streets, looking totally wiped out. Then he looks up and spots a massive gate just chilling ominously in the sky. Right in the middle of the city, this giant portal is wide open, and the guards are screaming at everyone to get back. Our guy, who introduces himself as Desperto, steps up to the plate and asks if they need an extra hand. Problem is, he's just your average, run-of-the-mill, awakened dude. So the security guard pretty much tells him he'd be about as useful as a screen door on a submarine in there. Our white-haired hero keeps on truckin' and says his best bet is to find a nice, safe hole to crawl into. But as he's walking off, he's totally shocked to see his own daughter, Mi-jin, in the crowd. He's like, "What in the world are you doing in a place like this?" And she just casually replies that she's here to patch up the wounded. The girl flips it right back on him, asking what he's doing here, and he just mumbles that he's worried about the whole situation. Mi-jin gets totally ticked off and snaps that all he ever does is work and stuff his face. She barks that she's here to make some bank and tells him to beat it, even giving him a little shove. The dude then drops his necktie, and his daughter just scoffs, pointing out he doesn't even have a real weapon. Right on cue, a bunch of warriors start flooding out of the portal, strutting down the street like they own the place. A red-haired warrior steps up and announces that the dungeon raid is officially a wrap. She calls for all the healers to get to work on the busted-up fighters. After her big speech, the crowd goes wild, cheering and thanking her for a job well done. And then we get a classic info dump about the different kinds of powers an awakened can get. Apparently, there are 5 whole stages to hit the master level, and there are even special boot camps for awakened folks called cipher schools. So, once you've completely maxed out your first awakened class through some serious grinding, you unlock the chance to snag a second one. And if you're a total beast and master 2 whole classes, the Awakened Association slaps a rank 1 or higher title on you, making you a big deal. Which means, if your luck sucks and you awaken with a trash tier skill or level up slower than a dial-up modem, it makes perfect sense to just call it quits and find a normal job that doesn't involve getting your face rearranged. Left to his own thoughts, Nero figures he's hit his peak at the 6th class, thinking this is as far as he goes. But then, out of absolutely nowhere, Chuleho blows up his phone, totally panicking that something insane just went down with his pet dragon, Kule. Apparently, the little guy started talking while chowing down on candy, and of course, Nero immediately starts clowning him about the dragon's name. But Chuleho is like, "Dude, not the point," and shows him the dragon is straight up saying, "Daddy." This leaves Nero completely floored. He asks his red-headed buddy if that name isn't, you know, a little on the nose. And the guy just shrugs and claims the dragon picked its own name. Shiloh is over the moon that this little lizard is calling him daddy, and they immediately start arguing about what class the little dude should even be. Just then, some random dude barges in, screaming for Miro and demanding 5 bowls of ramen like his life depends on it. This makes Kilho wonder how in the hell he got stuck being a restaurant manager. While this guy proceeds to pour his heart out to Miro. Drowning in regret, the man tells our hero he found his own daughter in a portal but was too pathetically weak to do anything for her. The guards on duty pretty much just told him to get lost, since he was just some useless level 7 awakened. Meanwhile, his daughter was perfectly fine, having popped an incredible healing ability and getting recognized as a 3rd class. The guy just keeps laying on the sob story thick, explaining he got invited to his daughter's parent-teacher day, but the school was one of those ridiculously expensive elite places. So, the poor guy decided he'd at least buy something nice to wear for the occasion, but he could barely scrounge up enough money for a half-decent tie. So he just ditched the whole thing, figuring there was no point in a dead-broke dad showing up just to humiliate his kid. Burying his face in his hands, he lets out this hollow, bitter laugh, shocked that he can still feel hungry after all that. Manhwa just calls himself a total waste of space. But hey, a man's gotta eat if he ever wants a shot at getting shipped off to some war zone where portals are blowing up buildings. Kilho finally yells for Kay, who's been back in the kitchen this whole time. And to the guy's utter shock, the chef just asks if it'd be cool to, fatten him up a little, and immediately throws a massive hissy fit. But before his little meltdown can even hit its stride, the restaurant owner hits him with a stone-cold deadpan, saying he was just messing with him. But Kay's goldfish brain has already moved on, locking onto the Kuhl hide just chilling on the table. He starts demanding to know why the chef is scoping out his hard-earned loot. As the owner casually glances at the skin, the fiery redhead shrieks that he was totally gonna keep that thing as a trophy. And just like that, a piping hot, extra-large serving of ramen, made with 100% genuine monster skin, gets plopped on the table. Chilho slides the sizzling pot over to Miro, casually claiming he just had a bunch of leftovers. The god of food, naturally, starts inhaling it like he's been fasting for a century. While the deity is busy stuffing his face, our restaurant owner stares out the window, striking a pose that just screams, "I'm important to the plot." Manhwa finishes up his meal, gives a grateful nod, and drops some cash on the table to cover the bill. Before he bounces, he thanks Chilho again for the impromptu counseling session and heads for the exit. Our boy watches him leave, but just as he's about to step out, the owner calls out, dropping some classic NPC-tier wisdom about how life's a total grind and it'd be nice if just one thing was a cakewalk. But, he follows up, good things are supposed to come to those who actually put in the effort. And for the big finish, he tells Manhwa to go all out and survive tomorrow's daily quest, cause this restaurant will be right here, waiting when he gets back. The owner lets out a small smirk as Manhwa walks away, and like clockwork, Kay pops up beside him like a little goblin, demanding to know why the dude didn't instantly level up or something. Chilho just gives a casual shrug, explaining he hooked the guy up with a temporary buff and that was the most he could pull off. Still completely butthurt that his precious monster hide got turned into dinner, the redhead whines, "Why are you even wasting your time on that F-rank scrub?" The boss just goes dead silent for a beat. Then he drops the obligatory backstory bomb. "He reminds me of my father." That little lore drop leaves Kay completely speechless. Meanwhile, back at his place, Manhwa is creeping into his apartment like a shadow in the night. He sees his daughter is sound asleep, but then she starts whimpering for her daddy in her dreams. Actually, it seems more like a nightmare. The poor girl has tears welling in her eyes and is apologizing for something. The guy gently rests a hand on his daughter's forehead, whispering that everything's all right and that he's the one who should be sorry. He says he's sorry for making her feel embarrassed, for not being able to live like a normal family, and for their life being permanently stuck on hard mode. Tucking her in, he promises that he'll love her forever, no matter what happens. The next morning, the sun's barely up, and Manhwa is already blazing a trail through the city streets toward the recruitment center. Right at the entrance, some younger dude with a beard flags him down, asking to see his awakened registration card. He then asks for the guy's name, acting like some kind of low-level gatekeeping NPC. The second he hears the name Manhwa, the dude's eyes bug out. "Wait, you're that Times guy, the legend who decided to catch some Z's during the last apocalypse." And you can just watch Manho's soul leave his body as the kid casually mentions, this might be a slight times complication, but whatever, the crisis was averted, so they basically shrug and give him a portal pass. I guess all's well that ends well covers sleeping on the job. Next thing you know, the resident wizard does a little wrist flick, and poof, a giant magic circle appears in the sky like a pop-up you can't close. And with our star-studded cast assembled, recruitment is officially over. Time to kick off this train wreck of an expedition. Meanwhile, our main man, Huho, is completely oblivious, just enjoying a leisurely walk through the bustling city. And then, completely out of left field, a city bus comes screaming to a stop, inches from his nose, and instead of, having a heart attack, he just gazes at it with the mild curiosity of someone watching paint dry. Back at the portal site, someone with eyeballs finally notices the giant magical gateway is closing faster than a free donut stand. The so-called elite are scrambling like their pants are on fire, and Sangu picks this exact moment to ask for a status update. Bro, the status is total panic. Some random dude chimes in that only the VIPs, classes 5 to 7, were on the guest list for this exclusive portal event. And amidst this absolute circus, Majin is desperately trying to find her dad, playing the world's most stressful game of Where's Manho? Then, just to pour some gasoline on the fire, a system notification appears. The final enemy has arrived. Oh, fantastic timing, universe. The poor kid is looking up, still yelling for her dad, and the camera pans down to Manho's foot, just casually sticking out of the grass like a misplaced lawn ornament. Cut to a team of dudes in full LARPing gear, doing a super serious tactical sweep of the woods. Someone's been playing too much Call of Duty. And what a shocker. A massive monster materializes directly behind one of the wannabe soldiers and immediately plows into him like a runaway truck. For some bizarre reason, Manho suddenly feels a surge of power, like he just mainlined 5 energy drinks, while a nearby girl is completely freaking out, demanding to know what's happening. Well, would you look at that? Seems we have a minor containment issue here in the dungeon, nothing to worry about, I'm sure. The team steels themselves for whatever's coming, and then we're treated to a glorious shot of a massive, scaly green foot. Hope Laundry Day isn't for a while. Surprise, it's a literal dinosaur, straight out of a theme park disaster movie, and our hero is staring at it with the face of a man who just witnessed his own funeral. Apparently, these prehistoric party crashers only appear when a secondary times dimensional rift opens up, because I guess one rift was just too boring. An event which, I might add, is supposed to be incredibly rare, and when it does happen, it's usually followed by a sharp decline in the local population. The Tiger X Beast begins its charge, and the entire squad collectively decides to nope right out of there, scattering in every direction. But Manho's gamer brain immediately locks onto a shiny object. It's a mana crystal, just waiting to be picked up from a monster corpse like a forgotten party favor. His mind instantly calculates the loot drop's value. If he can just grab that thing, he's seeing dollar signs and a future of financial stability. We're talking enough cash for a lifetime of premium ramen. Some dude is screaming for him to run, but Manho has his priorities straight, you know? But the siren song of sweet, sweet loot is too powerful. Manho completely ignores the panicked screaming and makes a beeline for the glowing rock. Meanwhile, the Tiger X is tearing through the area, absolutely wrecking anyone who gets in its way. This thing is clearly in a foul mood. This beast is an absolute unit with zero chill, and in that moment, it dawns on Manho. Asterisk. This times is the kind of power Minjin was talking about when she roasted him, and now, we're treated to a beautiful montage of absolute, unfiltered mayhem back on the city streets. One moment, Mijin is a blubbering wreck on the sidewalk. The very next, she's hitting a perfect pose for a news camera. Talk about a mood swing. Flashback time. We see this adorable little girl, grinning from ear to ear while checking out a magazine. But it's not all sunshine and rainbows. The memory reel also features her absolutely wailing her eyes out in other clips. We even get a peek at her as a squishy little newborn. Anyway, back to the present, deep in the woods. Manho's eyes fly open. His internal monologue is screaming, "Oh hell no, I am not checking out like this," and leaving Minjin high and dry. Fueled by a fresh wave of determination, he starts trash-talking the colossal dino, trying to get its attention. A single swipe from that monster's claw could turn anyone into a pancake. But our boy just keeps poking the bear. He's practically yelling, "You want a piece of me?" trying to bait the big lizard into a full-on charge. Then he channels every ounce of his power, winds up a punch, and bellows that today is not his day to die. His whole fist is just sizzling, crackling with pure, unadulterated lightning. Some other dude from the team is just gawking, completely floored by this sudden power-up. It looks like Manho actually tanked the boss's ultimate move. And what's crazier? For the first time ever, his stomach isn't rumbling. But while he's busy having this revelation, the beast decides it's time for round 2 and lunges right at him. With nothing but his bare hands, he shoves the monster back with insane force. This guy just hit a whole new power bracket. You can see every muscle straining as he holds off the attack, dead set on not giving an inch. The rest of his squad is just frozen in place, their jaws on the floor. A teammate gets on the comms like, "Is the area clear? And how in the hell is that one guy solo tanking the Tiger X? That dude is an absolute legend. They've got to try and get his contact info after this is over." Meanwhile, Manho's locked in a brutal stalemate, pushing back against the creature's relentless onslaught. This, my friends, is his unique skill as a damage-dealing tank. It's a pretty solid skill, probably at least level 3. The catch? Nobody else has a clue he's been hiding this trump card. That same dude from earlier hustles over to get a better look at the absolute unit who just straight up stonewalled a dinosaur. And would you look at that, the big bad monster is now crying its eyes out. The hidden dungeon boss, Tiger X, has been officially taken down by one Mr. Kim Manhwa. Sure, he only tanked the boss's final desperation move, but still, he's now officially qualified for Shikshin Grade 3, and has snagged the MVP title for this whole dungeon raid. Rocking a classic hero smirk, our protagonist asks the little critter if it's catching up on the morning paper or something. He teases it, saying it feels a little heavier, and then drops the bomb. "I'm not your dad, kid." But he can't help himself and keeps messing with the little guy. Then, out of nowhere, a news broadcast cuts in and grabs their attention. Turns out, a whole bunch of merchants in Sedaman are totally freaking out over a string of robberies. Their manas are vanishing left and right, and the public is getting seriously worked up, demanding someone do something about it. Then, out of nowhere, some god-tier voice starts telling all the NPCs to check their six. This seriously freaky creature just teleports next to Khan, jamming a cup of water in his face like some back-alley dealer. But right as he's about to slam it, Q makes a heroic entrance, shouting, "Bro, stop, don't drink that mystery juice." Apparently, Q did his homework and found some ancient lore that says the well water is a straight-up germ festival, a major debuff potion. And then, our hero casually drops this little observation, that the kid's eyes, a public toilet, and that grimy well all have the same cursed energy. Bro, what even is that comparison? It suddenly clicks, and he remembers some guy who was obsessed with the food here, and even farmed some rare materials from the cinch zone. The very next second, someone's yelling, "Yo, boss!" It's the same dude from before, only this time he brought the big guns, the one and only Captain Gamangu. The captain's all business, saying, "The stories about you are legendary, Khan," as he flashes his Awakener Association ID. The random guy in a suit starts complaining, saying that, if it wasn't for this painfully dull joint meeting, his afternoon would have been a total breeze. He points to the guy beside him and totally fanboys. "Wait a sec, you're Shikshanim, right? Dude, you hard-carried that Chun raid boss fight?" The legend just musters up this super awkward little smile, and a thanks. Our MC is totally bugging out, saying it's an absolute honor to have a living god in his humble joint. He asks if Raymond is on the menu today, and the guy hits him with a massive, "Yep." The captain just adds, "I'll have what he's having." So, when the grub finally shows up, the suit guy practically inhales the entire bowl in a single slurp, and then, for the second time, he gives this ridiculously dramatic thank you for the meal. The captain's trying to usher him out, like, "All right, the show's over, pal." He's even offering to do the guy's school run for his daughter, telling him to just take a breather from the rat race for once. Meanwhile, our protagonist is just spying from the sidelines, trying to compute this whole bizarre dynamic. He pieces together that their vibe isn't actually hostile, which just leaves him even more baffled. Then, suddenly, pin drop silence. He's just watching the guy at the table have a full-blown spiritual moment with his bowl of noodles. The captain, on the other hand, looks like he's about to pass out from sheer exhaustion. We smash cut to a new scene where some dude is absolutely screaming, "Are you completely off your rocker?" and demanding to know how they got the nerve to even prod that thing. The monster is hitting them with a glare that could kill. Hold on, is that the mythical three-tailed fox? It then lets out a shriek that could shatter diamonds. Our boy is just standing in the middle of it all, looking utterly lost as the world burns around him. He spots another guy just casually flipping through a newspaper, who then checks the time and says, "Oh, whoops, my bad, I'm late." The owner just shrugs it off, saying, "It's all good, we're dead anyway, you getting food or what?" So this dude waltzes in, swearing up and down he's not hungry, but then immediately starts griping about some light-fingered punk, giving all the local shop owners a world-class headache. Then the guy asks for some hooch, and our boy is like, "My apologies, we only have soju and beer." Welp, beggars can't be choosers. The fella orders a beer and asks for the best grub on the menu, so our MC suggests the sashimi. The customer is all about it, saying he'll pay a pretty penny for quality, especially since monsters started crawling out of dimensional gates. A brand new, totally monstrous era had kicked off. The kind of fish you could get anywhere 30 years ago are now basically the stuff of fairy tales. Instead, we're stuck hunting freaks of nature that taste vaguely similar. Right now, they're digging into this weird, German-looking fish. He'd say it tastes an awful lot like your run-of-the-mill white fish. If you had to put a name to it, it's a dead ringer for sea bass. Back in the good old days, he never really understood the big deal about sashimi. Seemed like a complete rip-off, insanely expensive for a few tiny pieces. But man, the second he tried it, he was hooked, and right on cue, the sashimi arrives. It's been a hot minute since the guys had a taste of something this incredible. He practically inhales the fish, and his expression says it all. It's phenomenal, unbelievably refreshing, and just plain ridiculous how good it is. Washing it down with a shot of soju? That's the stuff. The dude has officially entered a state of pure bliss. For the first time in a long time, he actually feels like he's off the clock. But there's always some fresh hell to deal with. Soy only managed to swing 2 days off. And what did he do? He went monster hunting. Just a non-stop, endless cycle of fighting, day in and day out. The monsters just keep pouring through those dimensional rifts like it's an all-you-can-eat buffet. There's literally no time to catch your breath. According to him, this here is his personal weapon. A little parting gift for any level 2 or higher awakened who graduates from Cipher Academy. Apparently, the thing is an absolute beast at sucking up mana. He remembers graduating with honors, feeling like the big man on campus, thinking he was going to go save the world with his amazing talents. But the second he stepped out into the real world, all that confidence just, poof, evaporated. Turns out, he was just some random dude in this massive, messed up world, nothing at all like the hero he'd pictured. He says he got stationed in Sedaman 10 years ago. And man, it has not been a walk in the park. Everyone eventually has that moment they realize they're not the main character. The man knocks back another shot of soju. Then he looks over and asks, "Wait a minute, aren't you the guardian of Sedaman? The lives, the hopes, and the futures of countless people are resting on my shoulders. Sometimes it's just too damn heavy." Our hero asks if he has any memories of it. The man just says, "Yeah, you're damn right I do." So he's all like, "You ever hear of the nine-tailed fox, kiddo?" And bam, we get zapped into a flashback. He's trying to figure out which absolute brainiac decided to go and poke the legendary beast. Seriously, what kind of level 2 scrub attempts a stunt that's spectacularly dumb? And you better believe he's going to get to the bottom of it. You see, creatures with some serious upstairs, like nine-tailed foxes, are classified as mystical beings, basically. They're legendary tier mobs, which is just a fancy way of saying, do not poke with a 10-foot pole. For some reason nobody's cracked yet, mystical beings don't usually get aggro on humans. Not a single attack has been logged in the past 30 years. It's why they're such a rare spawn, but apparently not rare enough to stop some Nimrod from finding and annoying one. Back in the flashback, he's just unloading on some guy, screaming, "What in the actual ever-loving hell did you do?" The other guy is looking super sketchy and sweating absolute waterfalls while a teammate is yelling for the captain. The fox has arrived, and it is absolutely fuming. "Bro, that is a nine-tailed fox." He bellows at his squad to hold the formation, shouting, "I'm taking the front line." The whole area just explodes into a massive ring of fire, with a raging inferno completely surrounding the creature. The captain's eyes are like dinner plates, totally floored by the light show, and his team is just frozen with their jaws on the ground. But their leader snaps them out of it. "Quit gawking at the pretty flames. You want to start seeing rainbow-colored dragons or something?" And right on schedule, the creature's power level just skyrockets even higher as they all brace for the incoming attack. One of the women on his team is already on the verge of a full-blown panic attack. The fox is eyeing her and the rest of the squad like they're a walking snack bar. All of a sudden, someone screams for the captain. Like a bolt of lightning, he shoots forward, closing the distance in an instant. He gets a firm footing, preps his sword for his signature skill, and unleashes it with everything he's got, straight at the fox. The fox's eyes fly open, completely blindsided. In the very next second, it just looks confused. The leader stares it down, trying to compute its bizarre reaction. And then, the fox lets loose a world-ending scream of pain. Still, it fought like a demon backed into a corner all night long, until he, by some miracle, finally managed to take it down. After the battle is over, the only thing he can hear is the sound of whimpering. And right next to the mother, he sees a cub. The great evil, that genius unleashed, was just him on a hunt, stumbling across a baby nine-tailed fox. The guy's hunter instincts must have flared up seeing it so defenseless. It was a colossal screw-up. This dude was a top-tier prodigy from the CPH Academy. Even the cream of the crop messes up, but this was a whole other dimension of oopsie. This is the kind of legendary blunder they make. So they had to neutralize the animal. Or, that's his side of the story, anyway. He insisted they had no other choice, and the press had an absolute circus with it for about 2 solid years. Our boy's like, "Aight, bet." The old geezer scrambles up, claiming he's been spilling all the secret tea. And his excuse? The soju, of course. Classic. He yells for the bill and asks our guy to box up some sashimi for the road. Without skipping a beat, our protagonist is just like, "You got it, chief." The stranger just shoves his hands in his pockets, probably trying to reboot his brain after that massive lore dump. Bam! Flashback time. We see him absolutely roasting some noob for aggroing a legendary grade mob. He's basically screaming that, sorry doesn't cut it when a whole raid party is about to get wiped from existence. The guy was just watching the whole train wreck in real time, wondering how it all went south so fast. And that's when he clocks the giant, crackling rift, tearing reality, a new one right in his face. That fox is a mob, our main character totally remembers, from his little isekai vacation to the continent of Span. But here's the twist. Unlike the usual trash mobs serving under the Demon King, these fluffy bois were actually on good terms with the human players. However, he still had to farm 2 of those 9-tailed foxes for a quest, and man, the guilt debuff was a critical hit both times. Yeah, that memory is permanently burned onto his brain's hard drive. Back in the present, the old man pops open the sashimi box. The PTSD hits him like a truck, invisible wounds, phantom screams. He whips his head around, totally freaked out, and spots 3 massive flames just floating there. As the mental cutscene starts rolling, the man rewatches every single frame. A little bitty paw slowly fades into view. It's a Kung, just a little low-level fluffball. And that's when it clicks for the old man. He never actually finished the quest back in the day. He wonders why its eyes look so dang desperate, and has to admit to himself that he completely fumbled his Guardian class quest. He starts interrogating it like, how many mana crystals did you swipe? And you're already rocking 3 tails? The little furball just yoinks a piece of sashimi and starts chowing down. The man gently but firmly snags the little Kung. The little critter just gives him the big ol' puppy dog eyes, but the geezer tells it to listen up, for real. He lays it out. He can't carry it anymore because the association is about to drop the ban hammer on rogue monsters. So, the fox has got to bounce from this city and find a new server to grind some XP. He full-on yeets the little thing, trying to make it scram. But nope. It comes back like a furry boomerang. The old man screams at it again to get lost. The fox ain't moving an inch, and the guy just lets out a sigh of pure defeat. He's basically begging it now, like, please, just get out of this zone, at least. The little critter finally bolts into the night, but then something shiny and new totally snags its attention. Peeking through a window, it spots another creature. It sneaks in closer for a better look-see. This other animal is illegally cute. The 3-tailed fox looks like it's having a 500 IQ, galaxy brain moment. So, her galaxy brain idea is to ask this mystery monster if it wants to play patty cake. Our boy, a professional at watching dumpster fires, just watches this whole circus and casually asks if the little fluffball needs a snack. But it seems the little dude already demolished the all-you-can-eat buffet somewhere else. Just then, the man, the myth, the legend, Kang Chiel literally materializes and asks what he's up to, before pointing and going, "Is that a gumiho?" A baby one, to be exact. Then, with this disgustingly sweet voice, he introduces himself to the animal. He just nonchalantly mentions that a grade 1 mana crystal would probably be, super good for its growth. The little fox immediately tries to munch the shiny rock, and K-boom, a massive level-up glow just erupts from its body. Our MC then tells the old geezer to get lost and watches his own pet start crying out for its new best friend. Left all by its lonesome, the fox cub just stares into the void, looking like it's in a K-drama. It's deep in its feels, probably wondering if it'll ever see its new sugar daddy protector again. Sprawled out on the forest ground, our guy is moping about how the city lights just don't slap anymore. Out here, a gumiho's glow would be some next-level aesthetic. But still, it's not like he actually wants the little critter to come back or anything, baka. He just hopes it stays safe out there. Alright, let's fast forward to dawn, and we're back at the association where the knight, the blade queen, and the mage are on glorified security duty. And yes, in case you were wondering, this was all part of the association's master plan. The head honcho of this whole operation is President Yujinsu, who immediately starts whining to Chen that it's too hot. She offers to fetch him some ice, but the old man just waves her off, pretending it's no big deal. Then, doing a complete 180, he asks if all the mandrakes have just up and vanished. For all you noobs, that's a plant monster that just vibes underground until you decide to bother it. The moment you do, it sprays a poison that needs a custom-ordered antidote. But even if you have a potion handy, the instant you try to yank it out, it lets loose a shriek so loud it can one-shot any low-level awakener. The girl reports that a whopping 13 of them have gone completely MIA. The president sarcastically asks since when screaming turnips grew legs and decided to take a stroll. Xiang chimes in with her brilliant take. They probably just melted into a puddle. The president says he's getting Gabby on the line and tells the girl to give her the full scoop because apparently the legend is back. She's already on mission standby, so the president is making this her #1 priority investigation. Meanwhile, back with our little furball, it seems to be living its best life. And then, suddenly, it gets all emo next to its new human, who is, of course, completely knocked out and sleeping like a log. The creature gently pokes his forehead, then pulls back with a weirdly smug little smirk. Then the little dude looks totally baffled and starts trying to throw hands with a chair, using its tiny paws. This little furball is scaling the fridge like a seasoned ninja, on a mission for some grub. And the moment that holy gateway to snacks creaks open, it lays its eyes on some produce and just freezes, completely baffled, because this veggie is staring right back with a freaking human face. Yeah, that thing's face is straight out of a horror flick, but our little guy doesn't even hesitate. He tries to unhinge his jaw and swallow the cursed veggie whole, epically fails, and then just bursts into tears like his life is over. Meanwhile, our protagonist and his pal are just watching this disaster unfold, totally confused about the melodrama. His buddy's just gobsmacked. Like, dude, did that thing seriously try to inhale that entire cursed plant? So, Khan pipes up that he's been grinding the research skill tree, trying to figure out the spawn mechanics for these dimensional rifts. He's even been touring all the hotspots where dungeons have randomly appeared. However, he's found absolutely nothing, except for the usual low-level trash mobs you find scattered all over A-Span. Our boy is impressed by the dedication, but then Khan hits him with the million-dollar question. So, are you a monster too? Which, our MC takes as a huge insult. Anyway, the scary part is, at the very least, we're talking about a future where dragons and epic-tier raid bosses could start flooding through these rifts. So our hero just tells Khan to slide into his DMs if his investigation ever unearths some juicy intel. Then Khan points out that Chiel has already reached Master Tier, in 6 different classes, and just straight up asks if he can get admin privileges for the dimensional rifts. But our boy is like, hard pass. He explains that returning from the other world was a whole other epic quest that took decades, even after he yeeted the Demon King. Khan's like, aight. We'll put a pin in that, since Shul apparently has a super urgent side quest, a trip to the mall. The scene shifts to one of those ridiculously hot days that can only mean one thing, summer. And because this is a manhwa, there's obviously a giant magical barrier shimmering over the entire city. Some girl is getting seriously ticked off because she can't find a single footprint, even though her intel swore this was the spot. She senses the thick magical energy in the air and starts casting her own spell, looking just a tad sketched out. Then, bam, out of nowhere, another hand just snatches her by the face. Her first instinct is to yell, "Are you the Ice Witch?" while Lee Gabby is just standing there, looking around like a lost puppy, with no idea what's going on. The newcomer's like, "You can call me Yune," then immediately asks, "So, are you the guardian of Sinchen?" The girl confirms, "Yeah, that's me," and mentions her codename is a little something she picked up at the Cipher School. Apparently, she's a 10th year student now. Meanwhile, Gabby just casually strolled right through a high-level barrier without even causing a flicker. And according to this girl's Cipher School textbook, someone like that has to be stuck at level 1 for, 30 years. Chia then finally gets around to introducing herself to Gabby. Gabby just cuts straight to business and asks for the situation report, and Chian confirms the whole area is on total lockdown. But the place is totally pristine, not a single sign of a break-in or any hunting for that matter. And get this. The barrier they just waltzed through was a level 4. Gabby's brain is working overtime. If someone can just ghost through a level 4 barrier without leaving a single clue, then they've got a massive problem on their hands. She figures they better hit up the Mercs in Seoul for some juicy intel. She asks who the top dogs are in the mercenary world around here, and Cheon says it's gotta be the temple's mercenary court in Sedaman. Welp, looks like they've got their next destination locked and loaded, but not before refueling with some serious grub. Meanwhile, across town, some dude lets out a massive sneeze, wondering who's running their mouth about him. Turns out, it's Kane, planting a big old kiss on some fuzzy critter. He's just gushing about how unbelievably adorable this little fella is, staring at it like he's discovered a new galaxy, and he just absolutely cannot handle the cuteness overload. Our hero chimes in, announcing that he witnessed that entire cringeworthy performance from start to finish, and asks if Kane has any shame at all. dodging his own sister. Then, with zero warning, he tells Kane to fill a pot with water and whips out a giant watermelon. This, of course, completely short-circuits his friend's brain, who's looking at it like he's never seen fruit before. Chiel then shows him a whole chicken, which finally gets a spark of recognition from the guy. Apparently, they have those on the Spanish continent, too. But he's completely shell-shocked by the next reveal. Kane practically screams, demanding to know where Chiel scored a mandre. Our protagonist just shrugs, saying he found it on a walk and just, yanked it. He explains their bodies are so chilly because they're basically little power plants, just overflowing with energy. Plus, they've got this awesome crunchy texture and a super sweet flavor. So, naturally, they're amazing in both cold salads and hot stews. To prep the chicken, our boy just starts cramming everything inside. We're talking glutinous rice, garlic, the legendary mandre, a handful of green onions. Then, he just dunks the whole creation into the pot, claiming it'll be done in a jiffy, and right on cue, they get company. These folks had no idea they'd just stumbled into a pop-up gourmet kitchen. The three of them wander in, immediately commenting on the heavenly smell. Our two guys just casually wave them over to join the feast. The protagonist grandly declares that his fine establishment always has room for more patrons, while the two girls just stare at this bizarre scene, completely baffled. One of them finally finds her voice, politely stating she won't be having any chicken, thank you very much, as she's a vegetarian. And, as if on schedule, the food is ready. The whole crew digs in, singing its praises even though it's a tad light on the salt. The woman in the blue gear takes one bite of chicken and her eyes just about pop out. It's ridiculously juicy and flavorful. Our hero then nonchalantly asks if a certain Lee Gabby is the vegetarian in question, and if she might fancy some watermelon instead. Her entire face lights up. She eagerly accepts the offer. Turns out, there are a ton of ways to enjoy that fruit, and as for our protagonist, well, that's another story. But hold up, this ain't just any meal. Homeboy's got a culinary masterstroke in mind. First, he gets to dicing the meat into these perfect bite-sized cubes, then he throws in some fruit to give it that extra razzle-dazzle. And I'm not kidding, the man's knife work is straight up legendary. Next up, a splash of some mystery liquid, and bam, the culinary masterpiece is born, looking so good it could quench a desert's thirst. The lady's practically drooling and just casually mentions she's the Ice Witch, the big shot protector of Kron. It's not like she's thrilled with the nickname though, just so you know. She lays it all out. Back in her academy days at Cipher, during some big ol' free-for-all, some absolute clown decided to test her, so she went full Elsa on the entire arena and made it snow inside. And just like that, the name stuck. Meanwhile, Hill's over here thinking, what are all these heavy hitters doing here? Getting a serious feeling that some major event is about to pop off. The sheer amount of power just radiating from this crew is Guardian class at the bare minimum, maybe even way higher. And our boy Hill? He can't help but notice that Gabby is an absolute 10 out of 10. She tosses him a thanks for the killer food, and before you know it, the meal is over and the plates are empty. As they're making their exit, his buddy leans in and whispers, bro, that chick was on another level of gorgeous. Like, way too stunning to be a normal human. He's putting all his chips on her being an elf. And Hill knows his boy hit the nail on the head, cause he used his detection skill for a quick scan and saw she had ghostly sprint, a classic elf-exclusive skill. But here's the kicker though. She's a complete dead zone when it comes to magic flow, which can only mean one thing. It's not just ugly-ass monsters pouring out of that dimensional rift these days. Other races might already be kicking it on Earth, totally adapted and flying under the radar. Or maybe some puppet master is playing four-dimensional chess from the shadows. So what's our main character's next move? He hops on the phone with January and lets her know he's about to whip up something absolutely legendary. Next scene, they're mixing up some watermelon soju, just vibing and living their best life. Meanwhile, our trio of VIPs are taking a leisurely post-dinner walk through the city. The dude calls her ma'am and speculates if maybe Mondre's vanishing act is just some newfangled natural event. He breaks it down. There are zero clues, no eyewitnesses, no casualties, and not a single thing looks out of the ordinary. The other woman jumps in, saying if a level 1 awakened with a freaking shadow cat couldn't pick up a scent, then the solution has got to be something completely out of left field. You get me? Like, what if some random weirdo just straight up ate all the missing vegetables? Duh. And that's precisely why Lee Gabby's intuition is screaming at her. Even with zero concrete evidence, just a powerful gut feeling tells her something super sketchy is afoot. The only play she's got now is to report back to the top brass. Their next destination is the temple, but they're still stuck waiting for the intel they need to make their next move. Meanwhile, the big-shot temple captain, Zim Ta-jung, is finally calling it a career, and right on cue, some mysterious figure pops up for a split second. Elsewhere, our main guy is just vibing, gazing up at the endless night sky. The sky is a dead ringer for the one he remembers from home, but he can't ignore how the world around him keeps twisting and changing. This place, which once smelled like a meadow in spring, now just has the foul stench of fear and monsters. Even though he's running on fumes, he's still shooting the breeze with a group of survivors, and just to get a rise out of them, he casually mentions the box is now closed, sending everyone into a full-blown panic. Kang pipes up, saying how insane it is that the temple's elite squad actually managed to stop a monster stampede. Then, completely out of the blue, his little pet dragon clamps onto his leg, her way of saying she's finally up. And being the nosy little critter she is, she immediately demands to see the fashion pages of the morning paper. Seeing a bunch of sleeveless numbers, our hero deadpans that it's probably because, summer's coming. Her tiny stomach lets out a roar that could shake the walls, as she makes it known that she is absolutely famished. Our boy's mind starts racing, trying to come up with a breakfast menu worthy of a king. I mean, you gotta make it count, right? Life is short, and you only get 3 chances a day to eat something legendary. But then, looking at the little furball, he remembers, oh right, it's times life that's short. And then nonchalantly asks what the little lady thinks of some plain, white rice, because everyone knows whole grains are the pinnacle of health. He plops Fluffy down on the floor and tells her to go wake up her big brother. The dragon rockets into the other room and, without a moment's hesitation, kamikazes the kid who's completely conked out. All our protagonist hears from the kitchen is the redhead letting out a scream that could wake the dead. A few minutes later, the crew's all at the table, about to chow down on some bibimbap loaded with egg and veggies. The creature's so-called brother is giving the bowl some serious side-eye, clearly confused. But our guy just gives him a look and says, just mix it all up, kid. So the trio dives in for that first bite, and as expected, they all look like they've just tasted heaven. After they've cleaned their plates, our hero asks Kang if the little one's okay, pointing out how she passes out right after every meal. Kang explains that since she was only hatched about 3 months ago, they should be getting some hints about her class pretty soon, because all this binge eating and napping is how she levels up. You can see Kang is practically vibrating with excitement, totally geeking out over what her final class might be. Right then, the door to the restaurant swings open, and someone announces that the rice smells insanely good. Our boy, playing the perfect host, cooks up a storm and casually asks the kid if he wants to get in on this masterpiece. The kid's all like, you bet I do, but I gotta absolutely destroy this bowl of ramen first. But our slick protagonist, with his silver tongue, somehow talks him into tackling both meals at the same time. Fast forward a bit, the dude from the Zenak team is just chilling, thumbing through a newspaper, right as our culinary genius brings out the food. Sixen completely loses his mind, raving about how unbelievably good the grub is, giving a special shout-out to the kimchi. Meanwhile, our MC is internally monologuing. Well, duh. What'd you expect? I'm using premium-grade Mandre, you peasant. Right on cue, the guy from the association strolls in, gives the two a quick nod, and says he's just dropping by to say hi, since he's too swamped to grab a bite. He slides a drink their way, as a little olive branch. Kang's like, I feel you, man. This crazy heat wave is making everything a nightmare. And while the guy totally agrees, he adds that the only reason he's not falling apart is probably because he's been fueling up at this place. Apparently, the food's been like a supercharged energy drink. He then pivots to the other kid, asking if the legendary spearman has been acting all twitchy lately. The kid totally confirms it, saying the dude's been in a major funk. This little tidbit immediately gets our MC's gears turning. Sixen then drops the bombshell. The legendary Shin Ti-jang is officially retiring. And that, right there, is the exact reason why everyone's been freaking out and running around like chickens with their heads cut off. The craziest part? This guy was an absolute living legend to these people, the hero they all aspired to be. Naturally, our ever-curious protagonist has to know the juicy details, so the kid starts spilling all the tea about that whole mess from 10 years ago. As it turns out, that was the very first mission ever handed to Kim Sang-gu, the guy currently holding the Lancer title, right before the 5 Guardians got completely wiped out in that invasion. We learn that Taejeon is officially classified as a level 3 awakened, but his real power level is, no joke, way over 9,000, which is precisely why the guy is considered a completely broken, overpowered leader, especially when you look back at the monster invasion war a decade ago. The man basically saved enough people to start his own country. Anyway, new scene, we cut over to the association's president, Yu Jin-soo, who's just mumbling to himself that he always knew this day would come, and then, completely out of the blue, there's a knock on his door, and he tells them to come in. And who walks through the door? The Lancer himself, the very guy who's about to ditch the whole scene, strolls in and hits him with a long time no see. The two of them get straight to business and sit down at the table. The president, who is clearly not having any of this, asks if he times seriously, Times has to leave, and the guy just bluntly replies, "Yep." He follows up with some dramatic flair, saying, "My time has come." At this, the president absolutely snaps, screaming about how reckless he's being, especially after founding the group 30 years ago and fighting through that hellish war. He was always by his side, you know? But the Lancer just calmly places his cup down on the table and tells the president to get a grip, because no one accomplishes anything alone. He reminds him it took countless people working their tails off to build the world they live in today. But yeah, from that point forward, it was someone else's turn to deal with the headache, because he was officially punching out. Without even waiting for an answer, Jun just dips, mumbling some excuse about being late. Left high and dry, Mew assumes Sangu's gotta be completely devastated. But outside, the Lancer is already plotting, convinced his replacement is in the bag, some dude named Kang Hick. He's supposedly some hotshot awakened turning 30 this year, which I guess makes the timing perfect or something. Then, out of the blue, someone calls the guy a lunatic and asks if he's ever heard of the concept of hope. Xian spins around, only to find himself face to face with the current Lancer. And cut. We're suddenly at our protagonist's restaurant, where the crew rolls up in a rush. Taking the lead, Sangu immediately asks for a menu. Our guy just casually mentions the special is some good old homemade Korean comfort food. All the while, he's internally roasting the old dude, thinking he looks about the same age as him. Stepping up, Kang asks if it's cool if the food takes a minute to prepare, but the retired Lancer just brushes it off, saying he's got all the time in the world. As he turns away, the current Lancer declares that only his pal is eating because he's like, super busy and has to bounce. As soon as the young punk bails, Tian apologizes, admitting the kid's still got a lot of growing up to do. Our hero, completely clueless, is just like, "What in the world are you even talking about?" Realizing the kid is the new guardian, the old man sparks up a smoke and muses about when Sang got so mature. Then it hits him they're in a private, enclosed room. Our MC says it's no big deal, telling him to go ahead since they're alone. Peeking at the cooking pot, the ex-Lancer comments on how amazing the food smells, saying it's been ages since he's smelled rice cooking. That single scent just washes over him with a huge wave of nostalgia. Meanwhile, our protagonist stays silent. He's too busy thinking about how everyone has that one deep, primal craving for something. Which means this soybean paste stew is the perfect play. I mean, everybody's got their own secret family recipe, right? And his secret technique is all about capturing that perfectly unrefined, rustic flavor. He pulls it off by letting the soybean paste and veggies simmer on a low heat for a good, long while. The end result? A dish that tastes like it was teleported straight from Grandma's house in the countryside. He then whips up a fried egg and grills some salted fish, presenting a full-on, legit, traditional Korean feast. The second the guy lays eyes on this spread, he looks completely bewitched. And that magic goes supernova the moment he takes his first bite, his eyes lighting up as a huge grin spreads across his face. Taejong says it feels exactly like coming home, all while looking straight at our protagonist. So he's all like, "Look, it's been a solid 30 years since I set foot in Seoul. My brain's a little fuzzy on the details, capiche? Crazy how time flies, am I right?" Then, pulling the most tragic face ever, the guy admits that when he originally dipped from his hometown, he was 100% sure he'd be back in a jiffy. And check this, he claims he'll never forget the great evacuation from 30 years ago, and for sure not the final invasion that happened 10 years back. All the while, Kang is just standing there like a statue, letting this whole tear-jerker of a story wash over him. The axe guy keeps spinning his yarn, saying that 30 years ago, when the monsters decided to throw a surprise apocalypse party, a whole bunch of countries and cities just straight up folded, and like, a bajillion people got deleted from the server of life. That's when our boy here, just vibing in his hometown, grabbed a sword and suddenly got a legendary buff to all his physical stats. So, of course, he stepped up as the leader for the freshly awakened and the other survivors, marching them all to Seoul and starting up the whole temple mercenary operation. The whole operation rebuilt the city through sheer teamwork, which is how they snagged the Guardian title, even though technically the place is still called Korea. But let's be honest, the only thing left standing is the city of Seoul. Because just as everyone started to relax, the big bads we now call bosses decided it was their turn to invade. And just like that, boom, the final great invasion was on. Cue the dramatic flashback. We're zapped back to that epic day, watching him throw down with some seriously nasty monster. In the middle of the fight, he's thinking, oh crap, this thing's way too OP. There's no way I can solo this boss. If I don't get a miracle, like, right this second, it's game over for me. He squeezes his eyes shut, pretty much ready to face the final curtain, whispering that he doesn't want to check out just yet. But then, bam! Xian teleports in out of nowhere and just starts laying into the creature, and his hands are covered in, hold up, is that strawberry juice? Xian screams at the kid to get his head in the game, admitting that he's totally quaking in his own boots. He's terrified and wants to run, no doubt, but pushing forward even when you're scared to death? That, my friend, is what real heroes do. Holding out a hand, the guy asks our fledgling hero what his name is. He grabs the hand and introduces himself as the brand spanking new Guardian. Powering up like a shonen protagonist, the spear dude tells the kid to pay close attention. For his next move, Tehone gets in stance, spins his sword like a freaking Beyblade, and launches himself at the colossal beast. He lands a ridiculously powerful hit, ending the fight with absolute flair. Then he spins around and drops the sickest one-liner. This is the path we forged with our own hands. The newbie is just frozen on the spot, totally mind-blown. Anyway, fast forward back to now. We cut to Sangu, perched on a mountaintop, scouting the city with his spear at the ready. He's mumbling to himself that this zone is supposed to be a complete monster-free area. He puts on his best dramatic actor voice and proclaims, this is the sacred ground where the old spear slinger is going to finally put his feet up. Therefore, it's his sacred duty to transform this snooze fest of a quiet zone into a legit 5-star luxury retirement villa. And then, boom, he hits the deck, ugly crying like his favorite character just got axed. The kid starts moaning that there are 0 monsters around, bitching that he can't even give Tajan a proper goodbye and good riddance quest. Meanwhile, back at the Grubhub, Kenya just flat out asks the old geezer if he's got any regrets. The guy's like, my whole life is one giant regret. Admitting he had to be Mr. Perfect 24/7, just so everyone, himself included, didn't end up as worm food. So let me break it down for you. He was walking a tightrope with no safety net, because one little slip-up meant somebody was getting permanently yeeted from the server. Our MC is having a moment, thinking, damn. And here I was thinking the current Guardian was just some overgrown man-child. But now, the puzzle pieces are snapping together. He finally gets that the guy learned all his tricks from this certified legend who basically worked himself to the bone just to forge the next S-tier generation of badasses. So he pipes up and says to the Spearmaster, yo, heard you're heading back to the old neighborhood. Shin just gives him a yup. And our boy starts to feel a glimmer of understanding for what the old man endured. The geezer asks to settle the bill, but our main character ain't having it. Nah man, this one's on me. He claims his place has a special hometown hero discount, which conveniently costs nothing. The spear wielder, looking totally caught off guard, is just like, huh, well, that's a first. He thanks him for the chow and then tells our boy to keep an eye on the new spear slinger. Kang just flashes a cheeky grin, all like, don't sweat it, he's already a top-shelf Guardian. The old-timer's face breaks into a smile. He totally agrees, saying the kid is practically his own son anyway. And as he strolls away, he jams his hands in his pockets, just gazing up at the moon like a true anime protagonist. Our chef, posted up in the doorway, mumbles that old soldiers never really die. They just go away from keyboard. Fast forward a bit, and Chun finally arrives at his destination. Just a stone's throw away, we see Sangu, looking like he's about to turn on the waterworks all over again, telling the old dude to chill out and enjoy a long life. Then the kid just vanishes into thin air, and suddenly, some random creature materializes, chattering about how the human who just dipped and that other mysterious dude both handed over the shiny rock, a gizmo that, for once, didn't try to pull any funny business on it, which obviously means a new, non-hostile player has just moved into the neighborhood. Cut back to Kang, who's trying to figure out what's up with Lantern, who's just shrieking his name on repeat. He's like, bro, you conscious? And then, with absolutely zero warning, the whole world goes haywire, and our hero gets isekai'd to another dimension, where some big-shot demon king is demanding. "So, you're the little twerp who dragged me here?" Our guy, completely lost in the sauce, can only muster a, "The hell are you even on about?" He follows up with a mean, gauntlet-powered right hook, but the king just nonchalantly conjures a magic shield to stop the smackdown. Right as our hero is about to land the epic, finishing blow, he shoots bolt upright, gasping for air and absolutely drenched in a cold sweat. He glances over to see Kang, who's shaking like a leaf and looking completely and utterly terrified. The kid stammers that our MC was radiating some seriously unhinged, final boss energy, and our hero instantly realizes his mistake. He quickly apologizes, explaining that even after a solid 10 years since the war ended, he still gets smacked with these intense nightmares every once in a while. He starts wondering if it's because he heard Chien is about to be absolutely demolished by a massive monster invasion. After all, it's the very same day he had his legendary showdown with the Demon King. He's pretty sure that's no coincidence, but our hero declares that regardless, they won't be having a round two. Shaking it off, he checks the other room and finds Fluffy. And what is she up to? Oh, just casually giving the floor a brand new look with some chalk art. You know, typical kid stuff. He saunters over, points at one of her abstract masterpieces, and asks, "Is that supposed to be a chicken?" The little girl just gazes up at him and babbles incoherently. Crouching down, he has the random thought, "Wait a minute. Could she be a mermaid?" He then promptly scoops the little dragon girl up into his arms, and just like that, he decides she's far too adorable to be in trouble, opting to give Fluffy a few gentle head pats instead. He then bribes her with the promise of chicken if she cleans up her artwork. As he's heading out of the bathroom, the red-headed kid walks in and looks completely traumatized by the chalk-pocalypse covering the floor. Kang lectures our MC about teaching his sister how to clean, right before spotting her getting all snuggly with him. Clearly a little jealous, Kang asks why she's so much cozier with him, but our hero just smoothly deflects and says he's heading to the market. He then informs the young man that he's officially on babysitting duty for the day. Cut to the market, where our guy is buying a truly absurd amount of chicken, and the vendor is obviously raising an eyebrow. Our protagonist just plays it cool, explaining he has a housemate with an appetite that could rival a black hole. The vendor is absolutely thrilled, calling it his lucky day, and then casually mentions the big festival happening later on. Cho is completely out of the loop, so the guy just tells him to go check out the town square to see what all the excitement is about. So, naturally, he ambles over to the location to investigate, and is greeted by the sight of a giant freaking robot surrounded by an ecstatic crowd. He's observing from the sidelines when it suddenly dawns on him, "Wait a second, that's a golem." Out of nowhere, a woman appears beside him, explaining she's here to witness the test run of their brand new ogre. His curiosity officially piqued. Our boy asks her what on earth she means by ogre. The lady spills the beans. The creature's called a radiable golem, which is basically a mech running on a monocrystal. In his head, Kang's thinking the monster is packing some serious heat, but its weak spots are a mile wide. Its slow, clunky movements are perfect for duking it out with giant monsters, but totally pathetic against anything small and zippy. This tells him you can't just stick any random Joe in the cockpit, so he decides to probe for more intel. And the woman confirms that the person pulling the strings is a measly Level 1 awakened. With the galaxy brain working overtime again, our protagonist figures out why just anyone can't pilot the golem. It demands active mana channeling. You have to physically funnel the juice from the mana stone, and only certified pros like Kim Hoon can pull that off. Kang's final review is that the robot's skill set is decent, but it costs an arm and a leg to build, making it a trash-tier investment. He gives the woman a quick peace out, and she immediately jumps in to ask if his restaurant is going to be open. He confirms it'll only shut down if the world ends, and hearing this, the woman lets out a sigh of relief so huge it could cause a hurricane. Our boy zips home to find a literal mermaid just vibing in his living room with Fluffy. Just one look at Kang's completely gobsmacked expression says it all. His brother asks if this is his mess, but the young man is practically vibrating with hype, announcing his sister has unlocked the Spirit Master class. He then explains that while Clay's hair is white, her mom was a blue dragon, which prompts our protagonist to ask if the mermaid is Andina, the water spirit. Snuggled up in the mermaid's lap, the tiny dragon starts calling the spirit Mommy. Grinning like an idiot, Kang remarks that this spirit is a premium, high-tier summon. And right beside him, his brother just nods along like, "Yep, checks out." Internally, our protagonist thinks it's been a hot minute since he's seen a spirit in non-combat chill mode. And here comes the obligatory lore dump. Summoning spirits is a piece of cake, since they're just yoinked out of a multi-dimensional realm. Their names are all standardized, no matter if they're S-tier, mid-tier, or just low-grade fodder. So, you've got Andina for water, and Salamandra for fire, Silo for wind, and the gnome for earth. On top of that, there's never been a single case of the spiritual kings getting summoned, which means it's a break glass in case of apocalypse final resort. So that means you've got the demon realm, the spiritual realm, the continent of Spain, and the dimension where Earth hangs out, for a total of 4 dimensions, with 2 of them apparently connected. After trying to process all that, our protagonist's brain just blue screens, and he decides he's done with thinking for the day. He spins on Kang, giving him the ol' side eye and demanding to know if he's been running some secret dragon-made boot camp. But nope, the real MVP of tidying up is Dina. Our boy is absolutely ecstatic about this, so he declares it's time for a victory feast. And off to the kitchen they march, where he proudly announces the main event is chicken, dropping some ancient lore about how a fried chicken frenzy took over the nation 30 years ago. He then preaches the gospel that even though there are over 100 ways to cook this magnificent bird, only one method reigns supreme: the one, the only, almighty fried chicken. He then presents a perfectly golden brown drumstick to their tiny dragon guest of honor, laying down the law that the only proper technique is to grab it and go to town. Fluffy, a natural-born genius, gets the picture immediately. The whole adorable scene is enough to even get a smile out of grumpy old Kang. Gazing into the little dragon's sparkly eyes, our guy just melts, asking, "Isn't that the greatest thing you've ever seen?" Meanwhile, Kang is over there practically short-circuiting from the smell, crying out that he can't take it anymore and lunges for a piece, only to get hit with a classic "hold your horses" from the protagonist, who then launches into a dead serious lecture about a super sacred Earth tradition. Apparently, the act of sharing fried chicken is actually a profound psychological test, designed to reveal a person's true self. Because of this, Kang has to officially declare which piece he's gonna claim first. The guy is absolutely starving, so Hula's brother is like, "Are you for real right now?" Oh, but he gets a stone-cold, dead serious nod in response. The poor dude starts sweating buckets before finally confessing his favorite part is the chicken neck. And at that exact moment, our hero absolutely loses it, cackling and yelling, "Just messing with you, man. Let's dig in." The 2 buddies turn back to the table, only to discover Fluffy has already annihilated her portion and is completely knocked out in a food coma. Our guy slaps a couple of beers on the table, proclaiming this golden nectar is a way better sidekick for chicken than soju could ever be. With a satisfying clink of their glasses, the 2 toast to a day of glorious victories and epic trolling. Kang finally gets his bite and is instantly blasted off to Flavor Town. He watches in awe as Kang spits out a perfectly clean bone and is like, "Dude, how did you even do that? This thing is full of tiny bones." Just then, Fluffy jolts awake demanding round 2, but gets instantly sidetracked by a bunch of fireworks exploding in the night sky. Our hero tries to explain it's just for the festival, attempting to get a word in edgewise while the red-headed warrior is totally freaking out, convinced they're in the middle of an enemy ambush. The protagonist scoops up the little dragon and holds her up to the window for a better look, feeling a little bummed that she's stuck inside. He turns back to Kang and casually drops the question of when she might be able to pop into her human form. The redhead explains that since his sister has finally awakened her powers, it probably won't be too much longer. A massive, troll-worthy grin immediately spreads across our cook's face. He confesses he can't wait, mainly because he's already planning to buy her a ton of adorable outfits, girl, and completely change her life, not just with some sparkly trinket or a slick new do. Meanwhile, on the complete opposite side of town, the mech pilot is whining that his rig needs a serious tune-up. This crummy mana stone is barely putting out enough power to make toast. As he stomps into the men's locker room, he almost faceplants right into the dark-haired woman who was waiting there for him. She gives him a pat on the back for a job well done, but Kim just cracks a smile, teasing that she's starting to sound like his old lady. He then proclaims he's absolutely desperate to peel off this clunky gear and chow down on something. She lets him know she's already got a place picked out, and now that he's curious, he asks her where. She reveals the spot is over in Sedaman, and after they get that sorted, the conversation turns to Taejeon finally calling it a day. With a touch of melancholy, she admits he'd probably earned his rest. Hoon chimes in, wistfully saying he wishes he had a hometown he could go back to as well. Changing the subject, she asks how that new mana crystal is performing. He confirms it's decent enough, but mentions the mana flow is a little gritty. Then asks if they sourced it from that dungeon that just spawned. She confirms his suspicion, telling him that's exactly where it came from. She lays it out for him. It's a level 1, cave-type dungeon that literally just materialized in the ancient district. The real freaky part was the sky, which started pulsing with this eerie light, looking like it was about to drop some fresh hell on them. We managed to find out that a huge pile of the epic gear jacked from dragons way back when got absolutely demolished during the war with the Demon King. But here's the absolute kicker. Not a single one of the monsters even laid a claw on Kang. That gave him the perfect opening to yoink a magic detector, and inside his head, he's thinking, just as I thought. There's a ridiculous mana signature here too. This means we're dealing with something way bigger than a simple mana crystal mine. And if they don't screw this up, this discovery could literally change the entire game. But, for the Demon King's aura alone to make an entire dungeon collapse, that means the mana levels here are completely bonkers. Seeing a new crack spiderweb across the ceiling, our boy just lets out a smirk and says, "It's showtime." In a flash, a figure starts to form from deep within the sinister red glow. It's some kind of demonic warthog leading the stampede. Sangu immediately barks out the order for Formation D. He orders one squad to gear up for a full-on frontal assault, while the other establishes a perimeter to trap them. These things are level 6 creatures, and even worse, they've evolved into a pure, unadulterated combat type. Our guy instantly flares his aura, and like clockwork, his squad lights up, ready to throw down. High above, the Guardian poises himself, ready to make it rain pointy justice with that spear of his. But then, something absolutely unbelievable catches his eye. He screams, "What in the hell is that lunatic doing?" And with a bone-shattering crunch, one of the boars gets absolutely pancaked and faceplants into the dirt. Taking a quick look at the total disaster zone, the spearman yells that the main event, the king, has finally decided to show up. So, according to him, priority number 1 is now saving the wounded. And right on cue, some seriously ominous red lightning starts zapping out of the giant portal. Sangu, meanwhile, is in a bit of a pickle, currently being used as a chew toy by a whole mob of monsters. And yeah, it's becoming crystal clear that the situation has officially gone off the rails. Totally desperate, the team captain admits he's stuck between a rock and a hard place, because if he wants to shield the squad and the civvies, he's got to call for a full-blown retreat. But bailing like that is pretty much a death sentence for every poor soul stuck near the king's welcome party. And that whole greater good argument just feels wrong, especially since the old-timer heroes are always moaning about how much they regret making calls like that. Standing there like a statue, our boy wonders just how much regret those old geezers actually felt. His mind then hits the rewind button, flashing back to the day he was the one about to be turned into monster food. Saved by the one and only Taijong, he makes a promise to himself to become a hero for real. Then, suddenly, someone shrieks that they've got teammates pinned down just ahead. Flipping a switch, Sangu yells for Formation A, which is basically their fancy way of saying, "Let's just punch a hole through him." The second everyone sees their captain taking point, they get a shot of adrenaline and start hauling butt to get the job done. While busy turning monsters into kebabs with that oversized spear of his, our guy admits his mana tank is running on empty. But there's no way in hell he's hitting the brakes now. Some rookie screams that the king is on the move. Next thing you know, the colossal creature is making a beeline straight for our spearman. Thinking about his friends and the team counting on him, he declares he's got to finish this right now and clear the road for good. And with that, Sangu yeets his weapon. It's a perfect shot, right down the boss's giant food hole, vaporizing it so completely that not even a single atom is left behind. With his eyes glowing a cool shade of lilac, the spearman can't help but crack a smirk as he feels his power level skyrocketing. A completely gobsmacked teammate tries to call out to him, but he just brushes it off. All like, "No time for chit-chat, we've got people to save." The only tiny problem is, the kid was trying to warn him that a times second times king is now casually strolling out of the portal. This little plot twist has the Guardian looking like he's about to have a panic attack. He screams for everyone to get ready for a full defense on his signal. The brand new monster finally makes its grand entrance, hitting the ground with an earth-shattering thud. The spearman thinks to himself that they just gotta hold on, because the cavalry should be showing up any second now, right? But deep down, he has zero idea how much longer he can keep up this hero act. Then, because the universe loves drama, a massive flash of white light erupts out of thin air, leaving everyone completely dumbfounded. And just like that, the monsters get absolutely deleted from the server, including the final boss, who was literally mid-lunge. The entire party is just standing there, jaws on the floor, trying to process how the mobs just went poof and vanished. Seeing Manhwa on the brink of collapse, Sang immediately zips over to his side. As he staggers to his feet, the kid swears he's okay, but even he has absolutely no idea how he wasn't just turned into a human-sized pancake. The Guardian makes the call, yelling for a tactical retreat and for everyone to fall back. Inside his head, though, he's just thinking, what in the actual heck was that? Meanwhile, way up on the mountain peak, Kay thinks back to Xian's question and basically figures that, no matter what, there's no way anyone in this backwater area is gonna figure out his secret identity. And hey, if there's a little property damage, that's just the price of admission for getting saved by a god. The real kicker is that the spearman, who was just chilling at level 2, actually broke through to level 1, right in the middle of all that chaos, making him only the 4th awakened being to ever pull off that legendary feat. Suddenly, our hero's stomach lets out a roar that could shake the mountain, and he decides it's time for priorities. Chow time. He teleports back to camp and finds Kang, and immediately starts complaining that the campfire is seriously lacking. In a blink, our boy is back with an entire forest's worth of firewood. Utterly dumbfounded, the red-haired kid starts to wonder just how broken Kang's stats are. But when our MC asks him what's up, he just plays it off, saying it's nothing. All the while, Fluffy is staring into the flames like it's the greatest show ever made. Then, just to be a menace, he summons Andina again, catching the poor spirit completely by surprise. The mermaid appears, and with one casual flick of her wrist, she puts out the campfire and soaks every single person at the party. A few minutes later, we see the real prize of the evening, some mouth-watering grilled pork belly. Absolutely ecstatic, Ken gives a massive thanks for the food, but our MC stops him cold, saying, "Hold up, my man, let me introduce you to the divine art of the meat wrap." The kid absolutely inhales it and declares it's heavenly. Kang then asks if Clay's brother is still grinding away in that dungeon. The boy confirms it, saying, "Oh yeah, big time," and that he's in there every chance he gets. That's when our hero decides to spill the tea about what really went down earlier. Kay explains that the boars are simply evolving to fit the local ecosystem, but they're still total chumps compared to the beasts he tangled with on the Spanish continent. Our protagonist then points out that, funny enough, when that dimensional rift opened up, he didn't feel a single trace of energy from the Spanish continent, which means Earth is now connected to a whole new dimension, and things are about to get seriously bizarre. So, on that little bombshell of a plot twist, that's where we're going to wrap up the video. If you don't want to miss the next insane chapter, be sure to gank that notification bell for your next quest alert, and I'll catch you on the next power leveling session here at me.